Welcome back to SoulFlow YouTube. And I told you guys and I promised you guys we would do an arm balance video, and I have Allison with me, Arm Balance Queen, here to help. So I'll talk her through it. She'll get into them and we'll do full expressions, and then we'll show you ways to modify with blocks and things like that. So first things first, Allison just took class, so she's warmed up. But if you're going to try this at home, warm your body up. Maybe some sun salutations, some wrist stretches, things like that. So we're going to start with crow. So we're going to take full this expression of crow first. So Allison will get into crow, and a lot of the times when we come to crow, it's usually malasana, hindi squat, or we just give you some playtime. So as Allison's getting into crow here, she's bringing her knees to her triceps, chaturanga arms. She's bringing her gaze out in front of her, and then she's lifting her toes as she engages through her core. So when you're in it, so I guess the biggest thing is a lot of people, they try to kick up into it. So
and people think that it's all arm strength, but you don't have to have super strong arms. It's all about core and making yourself light. So you want to really engage the core, engage the thighs, engage the glutes to make yourself as light as you can. And then setting the gaze out is key, because if you set your gaze down, that's where you're going to go. So if you're looking out, shifting the gaze out, and then just kind of coming up to the toes as you lean forward, gaze goes out, and then maybe one toe lifts first, and then the second toe lifts.
And I know, like, there are people that when they're first learning crow, they'll bring their knees to the outside of their triceps just because it feels best for them, which is fine. You can do it that way too, but the more you build your strength in the core, the more you're going to be able to get your knees high into your armpits. So that's full crow. Let's break it down with some blocks.
Okay.
So we'll show a block underneath the toes first. So this is a way to lift yourself if you're working on core strength. So she brings her toes to the block. She still brings her knees to her triceps. Chaturanga arms. She has her gaze out long, and then she starts with one foot, lifts the toes, and then the other foot, and then eventually both feet lift. It just helps you get the height that you need to get the knees
higher, if you want the toes higher on the block.
Nice. Okay. And then the second way you can use the block is, a lot of people with arm balance, the fear is falling on their face. If you don't have a block at home and you want to try this, I would say a pillow or something in front of you. Allison's just bringing the forehead right onto the block right away, so you don't have that fear of falling on your face. And then she's lifting the toes. Same core engagement, gives you the same effect. Yep. Just helping you along the way. So even people that have never gotten into it can at least practice to know what it feels like. So if you don't have blocks at home, I would recommend blocks for sure if you have a home practice, and you can get them pretty cheap on Amazon and things like that. So crow.
Sounds good. And like you were saying, enter from malasana, usually in class, or even if you're taking prasarita and you want to take an arm balance instead of going upside down, that's another option to throw that in.
Yeah, and always keeping, she had her elbows in too, nice and tight. And we'll focus on that too when she goes into tripod and headstand, keeping your elbows in. But we always say with arm balances, think chaturanga arms. 90-degree bend. Yep. So, it's beautiful. Cool. All right, so next one is going to be side crow. And we usually enter side crow from twisted chair. And I'll get out of the picture and just have you do it. So we usually come into twisted chair. So she's twisting, so she's hooking the elbow as much as she can to the outside of the knee to get that deep twist. And then she's going to drop down. So practically there already once you get that twist going. She's bringing knees to tricep.
So you're creating like a shelf with your arms. So again, that 90-degree bend, chaturanga arms, and my gaze is out. I'm just kind of tucking the toes in.
And then, like, the more you practice and get advanced, you can, like, straighten the legs or do acapata or things like that. But side crow, yeah, like she said, you want to create a shelf. Hinge forward, gaze forward. Again, chaturanga arms, so she doesn't have perfectly 90-degree bend in her elbows there, and she's using her core to lift her toes. So your feet are going to slide. Again, you don't want to kick into it.
Right, you just
want to
lean.
slide.
It's all about lean and setting the gaze out. If you're having a hard time getting your knees up onto that shelf, you need to practice more twisting poses. If you're having a hard time getting the elbow to the outside of the knee, that's gonna be the first step, because otherwise you're never gonna get close enough to get that lean. So keep working on those twisted chairs.
And then we can show using blocks. So she's got 2 blocks that she's stacking. So this is a way that if you're working on just getting your hips up, because that's an issue too, people can't get their hips high enough, she's placing her hips to the blocks and letting the blocks lift her hips up and then bringing her gaze out. So that can help you get the hips lifted to feel where they need to be to get them on your triceps.
Yep.
But she's still using her core to lift her, so she's not relying on the blocks completely.
Yep, and you're not relying on your arms. So really using that core, make yourself light. Engage the muscles.
And then I know some people use a block under their forehead in side crow. I don't know how you feel about that.
I've never done it, we can see. Just
Or
to
like
kinda
going into fallen angel, sometimes people bring the
like
block.
relax the, let's see. Oh yeah, so you can also kind of, my blocks are a little close to me, but you kind of adjust. Yeah.
Awesome. Side crow, and I always say, like, even if you can't get into it, practice in class just getting, like you said, the twist down. Get the twist and maybe even just coming like you're gonna get into it.
Yeah, so like getting the twist and then just trying to get that hand placement. And then again, it's about leaning as you make that shelf. So my knees are hitting my front elbow here, and then my hip is coming up onto that left tricep. So I've got kind of that shelf to rest as I kind of lean and lift.
And some people can rest on one tricep the stronger you get with the practice. Some men, it's easier for them just to balance on one tricep.
I don't know if you can see, maybe I'll turn this way so you can see that way. So if you get that side crow down and you want to try with one tricep, then you're just putting it onto that front arm, and then the back arm, it's still chaturanga arms, but the back arm just kind of hangs out. Setting your gaze out, finding that strong core.
Beautiful. I know she makes it look so easy, but
This
practice,
took years.
practice. Yes.
So I always say practice, patience, and time. So don't think that you're going to jump into this the first time, because then it just causes frustration. If you look on Instagram and you see these yogis getting into these crazy poses, don't think that it's going to happen day one. It takes a lot of time.
Yes. And like she said,
Patience,
patience.
practice.
So yeah, just every day you come to your mat, practice, practice. Don't be afraid to get up in it. Take the blocks if you feel like you need the support from the forehead or the hips.
Yep.
All right, so then we said we were going to do flying lizard, because
Yeah.
this is another one you'll see us transition to in class a lot of the times that we'll call for, and a lot of times people are like, what? Even if like we try to break it down, we want to go slow here to break it down. So Allison's going to go into it from...
I'll do sideways first, and then I can face you. So if you're coming into that lizard, and you're in lizard lunge, if you want to, coming to the knife's edge. And then want me to do the fullest expression first?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll backpack the leg on top of the shoulder as much as you can. As you curl the back toes under, I kind of shorten my stance a little bit. And then you set your gaze out. The front foot is going to kind of hook under as you lean forward. So maybe you just come to here first, and eventually maybe that back leg lifts. Again, my gaze is out, my core is strong. My leg is shaky because I just took class from Melissa.
We did a lot with the hamstrings.
Yeah.
So notice how she hooked her toes first, because a lot of the people, that's the hardest thing they have to figure out, is how to hook their toes under, because it's such a weird thing that you never do. So like just hook your foot first. That's what I would.
And just really
yeah.
squeeze.
Squeeze your tricep
And then
hinge forward. Beautiful.
Lift.
Nice job. So when we come into lizard lunge, like she started with, and then we say sometimes if there's a further expression, you can definitely do that as furthest expression. But for working on it, I would say probably backpacking that leg. So you could even just do, if you want to show them, like lizard with like airplane
I'll come
arms.
forward so you can see. So we tried this in class yesterday, if you were my Thursday morning, and everybody got into it even for a second, so that was awesome. So again, starting in lizard lunge, you bring the palms underneath you, walk the foot back to center. So again, backpacking the arm, and then lifting that back knee. So maybe you stay here, Or you can start to airplane out one or both arms. And again, my gaze is out.
Yeah. Can you show that from the side?
Yeah. I wasn't sure which would be.
Yeah, no, that was good. We'll get all ends so everyone can see what it looks like. So see, even like her back foot is still down. She's on the ball mount, but the back knee is lifted. And engaged. That's the important part too. She's totally engaged here. Beautiful. Yeah.
Okay.
So like she said, even if you just work on backpacking the arm, that's going to be huge for you too. Not only for that, but there's so many other arm balances that binds and stuff will help you open up the shoulders. So flying lizard variations. Then the last thing I wanted to do, because this is something, I tried to think of the ones that are most common in classes, and tripod to headstand I think is one that people are, and we're planning a headstand workshop, so if you watch this and you're still not sure, just plan to come. But we usually come into it from wide leg folds, Rosarita, and so we can let's start from tripod. So if you're just, and be mindful of the neck. So if you're somebody that has neck problems, you may not ever be able to get into tripod or headstand. It's more of a safety thing, like if you've had a neck injury, maybe arm balances are your thing. But tripod, so see how her elbows are in, so she's not letting them flail out, they're in. And then she's basically looks like she's in crow, upside down, so she's got her knees to her triceps.
And I'm on the crown of my head, so you don't want to be on the forehead, you don't want to be straining the neck, and you don't want to be on the back of the head because then you're going to tip over backwards. So just trying to get on the crown of the head. You can also bring a blanket under the head if you're feeling too much pressure.
When I first was doing tripod, I did use a blanket under my head. It felt better, but yeah, like we have blankets here, so if you want to try and get into that. And then she can see her fingers out of her peripherals, so
right
sometimes your hands are too far back or too far forward, so so tripod, so maybe that's where you're at, and then you could even try just bringing one knee up at a time. Like we mentioned earlier, do not kick up into anything. That's the worst thing you can do. You can hurt your neck, you'll flip over into somebody in class, so be very controlled with your movement.
Slow and controlled, not forcing it, not jumping into anything. And again, get a solid tripod first. If your tripod is not solid, don't start putting your legs up above your head because then you're really gonna start to fall. So then again, I like to squeeze the knee in toward the chest first. So instead of coming up from out here, bring it into center, bring that center of gravity, and then start to kind of raise up. And then maybe eventually you do the same with the other leg.
Can we do a side walkthrough
Sure.
of that? But yeah, so like she said, squeeze, keeping the elbows in, making sure you can see the fingers out of your peripherals. So you can see like her fingertips are kind of lined up like where her ears are. And then squeezing the leg in, and then she starts lifting one leg first at a time, and then when she's feeling stable, that other leg comes up and then she squeezes. A lot of the times, and it's hard to tell on yourself where you're at, but sometimes people, their feet are really far forward, so that's going to cause you to tip. Or if you jump into it, you go too far back and you flip over, and that's how you hurt your neck. So it's all about the control and the engagement in the core.
Yeah, it's almost like you're kind of hollowing out the core a little bit once you get up there. So your glutes are kind of out a little bit, your core is kind of hollowed as you're in the handstand or headstand.
Yeah, so tripod, yeah, definitely like you said, make sure your tripod is strong before you try to go up. The wall is like a good and bad thing, because if you're practicing in the wall, if there's wall space, it's there, but then sometimes it becomes a crutch, and then you expect to just, and sometimes too with the wall you can kick up too much, so then when you are on your mat away from the wall,
The legs are just going.
the legs are going. So you always want to have control in your movements when you're doing things. Anything else you want to add about what we did?
I just think the biggest thing is patience and practice. because I think people get frustrated. I even get frustrated when I see stuff on Instagram that I want to get into and I can't. And then it just all goes downhill. So just practice patience. It takes time, and go slow. Like Melissa was saying, we're not jumping into anything. We're not kicking into anything. Everything is slow, controlled, strong core, holding your own body weight up.
Keeping your arms at that 90-degree bend.
Mhm.
It's true for inversions and arm balances.
Mhm.
And if you ever have questions about anything, ask one of us after class. If you're like, hey, can you help me see where my alignment is? But like how we're recording this, I think it's huge too, like that for your own home practice to be recording your progress. Like set your phone up.
Yep.
And just kind of record yourself so you can see where you're at with your practice. So even after you watch this, maybe set your phone up, look and see where you're at with the poses, and that's going to help you figure out where you need to work on it a little bit. But we're here for you, and like I said, we're doing the headstand one we're going to have, and then we run arm balance ones, pretty frequently, so that's another one we'll work on, so if you can get to those. But as we mentioned earlier in the video, please make sure you're nice and warmed up before you get into any of this. So if you've taken a class and you're going to go home, good, but if you're at home and you just want to take it, stretch yourself out a little bit before, because then you can really hurt yourself. But other than that, thanks, Allison.
Yeah.
You can catch Allison Monday nights, 7:30 p.m. Vinyasa, Thursday mornings, 9:15 a.m. Vinyasa, and then every other Sunday for Yin at 7:15. If you have any other questions or any arm balances or anything you want to see, let me know, and then I can have Allison back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work
I'll
her
come
out
back
again.
for sure. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Namaste.